Hey everybody, JP here, and I'm really pumped today to start talking about some Randy Staub mix techniques. And I thought this was a good one to start with, kind of a good introduction, because this was probably the first one that I had seen on the internet, and this goes back to the 90s, the old rec.audio.pro Usenet boards, and kind of along the same lines as the Andy Wallace PCM42 trick that we covered. This is one of those things that was rumored to have been done by Randy, and I remember trying it out with my old MXR Dyna comp pedal and probably used it for about a decade with that pedal. More recently, I tried to find an in-the-box solution, and I found a free one, which I'm going to link. It's the Fazertone Comp 76. It's a free VST plugin. That was by far head and shoulders better than any other option, and that includes, I tried the Amplitude, I tried a bunch of others, and yeah, the Fazertone absolutely beat them all. But just getting into Randy Staub in general, it was actually the documentary Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica came out back in 92 or 93 that showed the band in the studio with Bob Rock and Randy making the Black Album. That is what made me want to pursue sound engineering. I just remember being fascinated by it. I was a teenage guitarist, huge Metallica fan, and I was just fascinated by everything that was happening in that video. I had no idea what they were doing, but I wanted to learn all of it. And yeah, that set me on my path. And the more I learned about engineering, the more I would go back and rewatch that VHS to the point where I wore it. I still have my copy of it, but it's probably unplayable at this point. Yeah, I went back and anything observable in that documentary, I would take notes on. And even more recently, I've rewatched it on YouTube several times and picked up even more things. So we're going to get into all that stuff as we cover more of Randy's techniques. But for this one, I really just wanted to focus on the kick drum and this really cool Dyna comp trick. So let's just jump on into it. So this is actually the same drummer and drum kit as the Brendan O'Brien videos that we did. It's a different song though. And I chose this intentionally because I wanted to show how a different approach can radically change the sound of the same drum kit. So we've got inner and outer mics both going into a kick bus, and that's got some SSL dynamics and a little Pultec EQ on it. But more in particular, it's also feeding bus 4 pre-fade. Bus 4 is our Dyna comp. So since it's a VST plugin, I'm using it within the Wavesverse wrapper. But there we go. That's the Fazertone Comp 76. That's it by itself. Turn that up a little. So it really does something to the transient attack. Almost a similar thing as the old SSL Dynamics quirk in our very first Pro Tools video. I kind of like it somewhere around here at about 1 o'clock or so. That's going to vary with your particular kick drum though. And then I did find, it might be due to latency, but it's slightly out of phase with the original kick. So I am adding this SSL G EQ after it, boosting a little top, a little shelf at 8K, and also flipping the phase. And listen to it together. See, that's the phasiness. Much better, right? So that's our kick by itself. And then we're adding the Dyna comp to it there. And actually had it down slightly from there. Now let's listen to it in context of the mix, then I'll take it in and out for you. It's with, without, with, without, with, without. Without. With. So yeah, I would say it adds something really nice to the kick drum, really helps it poke through the mix a little bit more on the attack side of things. One other little trick that I like doing with it, although with Randy, the rumor was only about using the kick drum through it, I love snare through it. And hearing this snare in particular through it reminds me a lot of some of the Nickelback stuff that Randy did. I apologize, you'll have to listen to Nickelback's music in order to observe it. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm only sending our original snare through it. Again, we've got 3 snare mics. I'm only using 2 of them in this mix. Snare up and snare bottom. And I am using this really cool Kiive Audio Distinct Pro on the snare to tame the transient a little bit. That's without it. Yeah, this is a really cool plugin. This is really the first time I'm using it, and I really like it. But we'll get into this more in future videos on Randy, but I'm using a sample from the Black Album drums. Randy is not shy about using drum samples, so I figured it would be appropriate to sneak that in there, and it really fattens up this snare nicely for his style work. But I'm only sending this original snare bus with the 2 microphones to the Dyna comp here. And I really like what it's doing. Yeah, it's not as drastic as the kick, but it still gives the snare something really nice. Again, this technique, this rumor of a technique goes all the way back to the 90s, and it's something I've been doing. In fact, somebody actually called me out on the Brendan O'Brien videos. They asked what bus 4 on the either the kick or snare, I forget which, was doing. And I was actually testing this out on those mixes. I didn't use it in those, otherwise I would have mentioned it. But I was testing it out on the drums just to see how it sounded, kind of in preparation for doing this. So yeah, I'll be back soon with more Randy Staub techniques. We're going to get into his whole drum setup, including some sort of unconventional EQing. Stuff that really kind of turned my head when I first heard about it. But then once I sat down and banged it out, I was really, really happy with the results. And it's all actually happening in this mix. So you've already heard a little bit of it, but you know, we'll get in there and take it all apart in the upcoming weeks. All right. So until then, please like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Hope to hear from you all soon. Take care.